as if we're just joking around about how I'm in a different location every single time that we do a live. Talk about really changing it up this time.
I'm getting playback on
All
your
right.
end.
How about now? Good now?
Oh, wait a minute. All right. Sorry. Yeah, no, now we're good. I was getting playback on everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's say now there are cars in the background instead of brand new. Yeah. Yeah, literally. Yeah, I don't know. I'm outside. I'm in Vegas right now. I'm at the Bellagio Hotel. So, yeah. It's either this or stand inside where there's a bunch of slot machines going off. So, it's a better option.
Yeah, this is. We're not going to be live on Instagram because I messed up the stream link.
Okay.
Yeah, so anybody just joining, drop some questions in. Talk a little bit of brand direct wholesale game.
Yep. Actually went out to, I think we talked about this last time, but I went out to dinner with a brand owner while we were out here, while I was out here. And no sort of, wasn't trying to close a deal or anything, but sometimes it's just about developing those relationships and everything, even if you already have an exclusive or something like that, just continuously reaching out and building the relationship. Lost you for a second.
Yeah, I had to change my shirt. I'm like, I just took a shower and I'm sweating.
Yeah. It's about 100 and it's actually not about today. It's probably like 95 here. It was 100 and I think it was like 107 when I got here. So it's crazy. People that talk about like dry heat and stuff, I feel like it doesn't matter. Like once it gets to a certain point, that's it.
Yeah, now my air conditioning doesn't want to work. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were saying about the meeting with the brand owner.
Yeah, I was talking. I mentioned I was like, just sometimes it's not even about like, even once you have an exclusive or you have a relationship, like it's just about continuing to build that. And like, there was not a single word of business was talked the entire time. It's just developing a relationship and continuing. Like once you meet somebody in person, I feel like it's totally different, right?
Yeah, it really solidifies the relationship. Like, you meet somebody in person. There's no agenda a lot of times going into it. It's just to have a conversation, have lunch,
Yep. Exactly.
And Brett, yeah, good to have you in, man. Glad you're joining in here. Awesome, yeah.
Brett, how do you know about the live in the back of the car if you just started watching the videos, man? What's going on? That was a good like 3 months ago.
Was it 3 months ago? I think it was last month.
What was it last time? I don't know. That goes to show how much I'm aware of the time here. Was it last month?
Yeah, that was last month.
Like 3 months ago.
No. All right. Joseph's asking, do you get an LOA or become authorized by the brand before selling the product? I would think it would be a tough ask in the beginning of the relationship to obtain this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a tough ask. That's the whole basis of this business model, right? Is like we are brand direct. We're authorized by the brands that we sell. And, if it's a distributor, then they're authorized by the brand, to distribute the product. So it's not really a tough ask at all. If you're authorized, then, it's no issue at all. You want to be authorized, right? Like you're not going to sell a product in which you're not authorized to sell. So it's not a big ask. I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah, no, um, not a huge ask. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be authorized to sell the products on Amazon,
Yeah.
no matter what. Um, but yeah, that's where buying directly from the brands
Yeah.
is
And
the
the
way
other
to
thing
go.
too, like you don't necessarily need to ask for one. You just have to ask their ability to provide them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Lived in Texas, Brett. Yeah, Texas is a nice state. It's on the headphones in the gym. Oh, nice. Yeah. So Brett's in the gym right now, listening to our live. That's cool. Yeah. Just got back from the gym myself, actually.
Not exactly the best pump up music, but I appreciate it. Um, Joe says, is buying from the brand directly giving you authorization? I'm new to the brand direct game. It's all good, man. It's all good. We all start somewhere. Want to touch on that?
Yeah. And so, yeah, if you are buying directly from the brand, you are by nature authorized to sell, right? You just got to make sure the brand knows you're going to be selling on Amazon, and that's where I've talked about this before. It's like a multi-step framework that we use to really just open up that conversation about how you're going to sell on Amazon. So you introduce yourself, the name of your company, your location to give them some legitimacy and professionalism, and then from there you tell them that you're stocking a product so that they know you're not a drop shipper, and then you say, we have our own website. We do sell on Amazon. And then you hit them with a calibrated question right after you tell them that you sell on Amazon. So you get out of the way upfront and early that you do sell on Amazon. So you're being honest with the brand. You're not lying. But then you're immediately jumping over that hump by asking them a calibrated question about their business. That's what gets you over that hump. And that's what's going to lead into closing the account. Um, And then from there, the brand's response is either going to be like a yes, a no, or an unsure. It's just going to be on a spectrum of tonality, which we've talked about before. If you guys haven't, I recorded a live brand call I was actually in the process of closing an exclusive on that brand call. And I gave you guys about 10 minutes of that call. So I'm going to link that video in here because it went into some of these different things that I'm talking about framing the conversation and asking calibrated questions and how to really guide the brand towards your outcome. So I will go ahead and link that down below. But to your point, Joseph, yeah, you want to know, the brand has to know that you're selling on Amazon, and that's what allows you to sell the products on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, and the biggest thing that I can say on that, especially if you're new and at the beginning, is like one of the things that I think brand direct wholesale gets a bad reputation for is it gets overcomplicated a lot, right? And the reality is it's just not as scary as most people make it out to seem, especially when you're starting in like arbitrage or something like that. So I wouldn't worry so much about all the intricacies of like, do I ask them for a letter? Do I do this? Right? Like, go watch some of the YouTube videos on the channel and just start to immerse yourself in it. And I think all that stuff is going to come over time. You're going to understand it a lot better. Don't get like scared off by anything at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, and I just went ahead and linked that live call video. I also linked the framework video that we put out about a week ago, and that one gives you the entire system to brand direct wholesale from starting your business and scaling your business. Goes through every single step in the process. It's our exact system that we use in our business. So you guys will probably want to check that out as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
Um,
And it's like you stare at that at first and you're like, this looks complicated. And I feel like in reality, if you break it down piece by piece, it's really not.
right. Yeah. And so in a moment here, we'll do a little bit of maybe a little bit of sourcing. If you guys have questions, keep them coming.
What we're using today, we're doing Keepa or we're doing, what are you feeling?
I think we're gonna do Smart Scout today.
Yeah.
Have
So that's the
Smart.
thing, right? Like, no matter what you're using, it's all about understanding the logic behind it, right? Like, whether it's no software at all through something like storefront stalking, whether it's Keepa, whether it's Smart Scout, like understanding the basic premises is what's going to allow you to find profitable brands and brands that are worth contacting.
Right. Um, and Big Tops is asking, new to wholesale on Amazon, do you think having an accent could make it harder to open my first distributor account?
I don't think so personally. I mean, we've had, students and guys that have been doing this that have accents and, they've had no issue. I think it's about how you convey yourself. Um, if you could speak fluent English, I think that's what matters from a linguistic standpoint. Other than that, I think it's just all about the message, same as anybody else. I think you're on a level playing field with everyone for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. You can definitely do this, even if English isn't your uh, native language, it's totally doable. Like Brandon
Yeah.
said, we've coached guys that have, you know, English wasn't their native language, and they've been very successful with the process.
Yeah. Also, like we'll touch on that with distributor account. You mentioned distributors, right? Like obviously we're more brand direct, but if you are looking for a distributor, a lot of the times they're more focused on volume and money. So they care more about that than anything. And so if you're coming in there with a good sized purchase showing that you're a committed, buyer, I don't think you're gonna have any issues at all.
Yep.
Do you think that the test order invoice from the brand to get or do you use the test order invoice from the brand to get ungated, or ask the brand to give you a mock invoice to use to get ungated? So, actually, Brad, I'll let you touch on that, but I'm going to say no, we don't ask for mock invoices. But Brad, if you want to touch on that one,
Yeah, I mean, I would just use the original invoice that they give you to submit to Amazon. Try to get that invoice before you actually pay and ship for the product. Like a lot of brands will just, if you request an invoice from them, they'll send you the invoice. It doesn't have to be paid yet, but don't get a pro forma invoice
yeah,
because the pro forma invoice is when the brand is recognizing that you haven't paid for the inventory yet. But like brands will send you a regular invoice, and if they don't, you can request it, and that won't be a problem. So if you can get that invoice before you actually pay for and ship the goods, that way you can just lock in that you're able to sell them on Amazon before you actually have to purchase that inventory. That's the way to go.
I mean, we could touch on it too, right? Like the majority, I would say, of the brands that we're reaching out to, and the majority of the brands that we're closing and selling the inventory, it's not products that are gated to begin with, right? Because like we're not dealing with the Procter and Gamble, it's like anything that would require dating necessarily. So if you're coming from something like arbitrage or something like that, you might be a little bit surprised by the fact that there's just not a lot of brands that you're going to be gated in that you're reaching out to.
Yeah. And there's, by the way, like there's brand level gating. There's also ASIN level gating. There's category gating. So there's different kinds of gating. It's all case by case. And so Brett, plus it will help build bankroll relationships as well. Um, maybe in reference. Oh, okay, that's in reference to Brett's question here. What do you think about having an agency offering alongside the brand direct partnerships? I know there are cases where brands need help, but maybe can't sell to you, i.e., medical vet products. And then he follows it up with, plus it could help build bankroll and relationships as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're referring more so to like the veterinary, the medical, that kind of stuff, having someone on staff, I look at it as the same concept as like partnering with a brick and mortar. Like you could do that, and a lot of brand direct sellers do it successfully. But I don't know. I mean, it's something that we don't really prefer to do because there's just opportunity elsewhere without that, in our opinion. That's not to say you can't be successful, right?
Yeah. And so the way I'm interpreting Brett's question is a little bit differently. I think he's referencing, in addition to actually selling the products on Amazon, what about doing agency work and
Okay.
collecting service-based revenue? And there's a time and a place for that. That's not our business model, and so in regards to that, like when I would say that's necessary, like we actually take the exact opposite approach. Like we kind of vilify the agency because a lot of times the agency is like they're going to like do the job, but they're charging the brand so much money. And that right there is a pain point for the brand. And then the brand comes and works with us and we're going to do everything for, by reinvesting our profits back into the brand. So it's actually like, the exact opposite approach. But when I would say that makes sense, I would say the agency makes sense if you are doing work for a brand where you're not getting a direct return on the product sales right away. So, like for instance, if you encounter a brand, they won't sell you their inventory because they're not ready to do that just yet, but they'll sell you the SKUs that aren't on Amazon or don't sell, right? But there's no direct revenue stream associated with those SKUs. So there's no profits to reinvest into those SKUs, unless, of course, you're already exclusive on their other SKUs. Then you can, help launch things. But that's the only time I would say it might make sense to charge service-based revenue, is if you can't work with a brand where they're going to give you a product of theirs that actually sells.
Yeah, I mean, in that interpretation of it, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do that a lot. That we do vilify that, as a value add, on our end.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And so in regard to that, like I would, that's the only time I would honestly recommend it, is doing it like that. But then I would approach it from the angle of doing a hybrid. So I would say, all right, for the first 3 to 6 months while we're launching this and getting the traction for the listings, we're going to collect a service revenue just to pay, our operation and keep the lights on, and just to cover our costs, right? We're going to collect a service. Of course, you got to mark it up a little bit, but this is what you can tell them for the first 3 to 6 months. Then once we've built up traffic on the listing, we will transition this into a distributor model where now we're going to actually start stocking the inventory as a traditional wholesaler and selling it, right? But there has to be a period where, you can't just go 6 months, you start buying their inventory with no sales, no traction, and then you're paying for everything and there's no return on your investment, through the sales avenue. Unless, like I said, you are already selling their other SKUs.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just to Cash Robinson, shout out Cash, by the way. He's our buddy. Talk about the other day, meet brands where they are, right? Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. You got to meet brands on their level.
That's why I'm glad half the time that both of us do this, because again, I totally interpreted that differently, right? But yeah, I know what you're saying. That's exactly it. There's a line though, because it's like, do you want to, do you want to completely move out of your lane and start talking about becoming a service? Probably don't want to do that. There's probably an extent. Like if that brand was like, we only want you to serve this purpose forever, you know, might not be a scenario that I would want to stay in personally.
Right. Can you tell us about some of your rejections? We'll
I don't know
be
if
we'll be here. We'll be here until next week.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll be live. We'll be streaming this live until next Tuesday.
Yeah, really. I don't know. You got anything that's like sticks out?
I mean, it's the same. What I would say is rejection in this business model is all over the place, right? But generally it's like the same theme of problems, right? And this is what you learn as you contact more brands. So there's brands where we've taken rejection, spun it around, and closed the exclusive, right? But that's rejection coupled with an uncertain direction and an uncertain tonality, right? Rejection, I'm getting dark in here. Oh, now I'm pitch black. Um, Rejection with like when the brand is like absolutely not, we're not interested, and they already have an exclusive seller, or they're working with or well, maybe not working with an agency, but they're like they are the seller on Amazon, right? Rejection like that, probably not worth pursuing. So when it comes to rejection, it's all about reading the degree of that rejection, right? Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about like how strong is that no. I mean, I think there's a no because of ignorance, which ideally you can educate at that point. And then there's a no because it's just no, no matter what you say. And, it's never going to change, which again, it's also ignorance, but there's a certain type of no that's like, you're not getting anywhere no matter what. And I think that's the no's that you walk away from. And those are the no's that get you rejected. Um, I thought about this question from the perspective of like the funniest things that we've gotten. I mean, I it has to be really extreme. I feel like at this point to like really affect either of us because we're so used to it. But yeah, there's the things that always stick out in my mind are I was on the phone with a brand and the woman told me that she hoped that I had the life that I deserved and then hung up on me. That was a good one. I think anything else. I'm trying to think of anything else. I've had a couple like really funny ones. What's even funnier is that sometimes like it'll happen, and then like I know you've had this happen because I've seen you do it too. Is like it'll happen, and then you immediately call back. Like you immediately call back, and it's like, hey, sorry, I think we got disconnected or something. Like you make up, like you obviously know they hung up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are funny because they're just even more mad than next time around. Which at that point, I feel like you're not like we know we're not getting anywhere, but it's just like I don't know. It's some masochistic thing doing this for so long where we're like we enjoy that. Um, but that's a funny one. I hope you have the life you deserve was probably the top of my list. Um,
That's funny.
yeah, that was a good one.
I don't know if you told me about that one. That's funny.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
Life you deserve.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly though, like, maybe if you're a beginner getting into this wholesale model, you're concerned so much about rejection. Like a lot of like that's the few and far between. Like most brands will let you talk.
Yeah,
Like most brands don't hang up on you.
yeah. They don't. Which is a little different because at the end of the day, for this business model, right? Like you are. We always say we have the dumbest model in the world. We try to convince people to let us buy stuff from them, right? And so it's kind of like it's a little different than your typical like telemarketer cold call. I feel like
Yeah. Um, yeah, Big Tops, thanks for joining. Um, does a distributor invoice work for Ungate?
you're assuming that the distributor's authorized. Yeah,
Yeah, distributors got to be authorized by the brand. So we're getting some good questions in here, guys. Really good questions. This stuff can help anybody watching. So we're going to keep running with these questions. Muhammad is asking, how much time is required to grow a brand new Amazon account with an investment of 15,000?
yeah. I mean, first of all, like that's a really healthy investment. Which honestly, it's even possibly too much of an investment, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
If you don't know what you're doing, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's not like I'm not saying like too much, like take money out, right? But be more careful with that amount of money. Um, and I think we talk about all the time, like backing into numbers, backing into spend, or backing and using spend into sales, into profit, into all that stuff. So I think that at the beginning, we touch on it a lot. Your $15,000 is just going to sit there because you have not closed enough accounts yet, and you haven't obtaining a price list and all that stuff where it you have the accounts to spend that money on. And then as you get more experience, it's going to go in the opposite way where you're not going to have enough money to all the accounts, right? So I think the time required doesn't have anything to do with the investment at the beginning. It has to do with your skill set at the beginning.
Yep, definitely. I mean, you could go into this with, 50,000, $100,000, and you could just blow it, right? Like if you don't know what you're doing, you could just blow it and, break even or lose money. Like it's more important to refine and acquire the skills and then put capital on top of that, So sometimes it can work to people's advantage to start with less money. I mean, we've seen it before. People throw money at the business and it's not backed by the right inputs and it just flops. You got to have the skills. You got to be actually putting in the work.
Yep, exactly. How do you respond to not accepting Amazon resellers dealing with unauthorized sellers already? We want to control Amazon sales. Seems like they don't want to share sales, just deal with pesky sellers. Yeah, I think this is a more complicated question than it seems on the surface, right? I think you have to really think about the psychological element of why the brand is saying this. It sounds like to me that it's just we're already dealing with this problem and we think that you're going to be another part of it, right? So let's touch on that a little bit of like how you can differentiate yourself in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with this and where we've found the most success is just sounding like extremely different than everyone else. Like, because when you do this over and over again, you kind of develop your own, um, rapport and your own way of, your own type of tonality, and so like it's more so in how you sound, which is what makes you stand out. Like, I mean, tonality, I can't say it enough. I think that's the biggest thing here because yeah, I mean, are we pitching to these brands? Like we're not the only ones pitching like PPC or A plus content or brand control or get your sales on Walmart. Like we're not the only, like I'll tell you, like there's a lot of sellers doing the same thing, but where the sellers that have success with it and the ones that don't are the ones that focus on building the relationship and focus on listening and asking questions and just having like just coming across with an aura. It's like this aura of confidence and conviction, like knowing what you're talking about, and just it's that tonality I think is the biggest thing.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I think so. And another thing, I mean, it's just kind of and I use this sometimes in my life in general, but I think it was actually an Alex Hormozy thing. Um, and it's just about whenever you have an issue like this where it's this like, I'm upset, this and that, like the brand is you actually, it's a strategy and it's worked for me in the past to actually get more upset at the issue than the brand themselves or like whatever situation you're in, right? So if the brand is like, you know, we're pissed off about Amazon sellers, we're this, we're that. If you continue to get more pissed off about the Amazon seller problem, they're gonna kind of pull the reins back and be like, whoa, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you just go over the top with it and then it allows them to kind of chill out a little bit and then you're able to provide value at that point. Kind of an interesting strategy, but I've used it in the past and it's worked. So
It's also like because in normally you're on one side and the brand's on the other, but by doing that now you're on the same side as them, right?
exactly.
So that's it's psychological.
Yeah.
um you know
Yep.
and so Umair is asking, how do you get past the gatekeeper and talk to a decision maker?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's touch on a little bit as far as the size of the brand, right? Like assuming the gatekeeper is, one or two steps away, then I think it's just all about your strategy. And we've gotten pretty creative trying to get past gatekeepers. Um, but if it's, you got to go through 7 people to get to a decision maker, you're probably dealing with the wrong size brand, and then it's a sourcing issue, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, one or two, like one or two people. And if you can't get to the decision maker, then yeah, you got to retarget the sourcing. Yeah.
So another second for Brad to jump back in here.
Yeah. I just got kicked out,
I'm
kicked myself out
I'm the
by
one
mistake.
I'm the one on my phone in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, and you're the one that
I
keeps.
know.
How does that work?
And Brett's asking, so much of this game is EQ and being able to talk shop with people, actively listening is the best skill anyone can have.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Really is. It's all about just being able to. Honestly, I don't want to say be a people person, but like being able to be an outlier in what's considered oversaturated and mundane and all that stuff. Being able to differentiate yourself is huge.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
honestly, active listening. I think you're better than I am at that. I I mean, I've heard you start going nuts every once in a while on the phone talking to brands, but like for the most part, you're very like active listening, like waiting to provide value at the right times. I feel like I talk too much half the time, but like a skill I should work on a little more. Yeah, and like, dude, I'm saying like, get like overly mad to the point where like the person on the phone is like, whoa, like this guy's like nuts, you know what I mean? Like
Um,
get like overly angry about it. Like it's funny because you like when you do it, you're like, this sounds stupid, But as you see the other person, like you can see the shift in their tonality. It's an interesting thing.
yeah. What, what does that
I,
mean?
I mean, I
Yes.
mean, Prince, if you need one, like I don't have a guy, but I mean, is there?
Who,
I'll put it this way: is there like a dire need for one? Like, are you okay? You know
do you
what I
have
mean?
a gas mask? Please put it on.
I mean, sorry, man. I don't know. I don't have one.
Yeah. Um, would you approach brands differently knowing you had unlimited funding backing you?
It's a great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question, Joseph. And so, okay, like, here's what I can tell you is that as our business has grown, both financially speaking, as well as skill set speaking, right? Our skills have gotten better. Doing this half a decade, you kind of know what you're doing at this point. Um, I think that both of those things combined is like what gives like there is nothing like no matter what the brand is, no matter what the caliber of the brand is. I don't care if it's, I was talking about on the live last week trying to court a brand that's doing 2 million a month gross, right? And so because of that, like it's just a thing, it happens over time, right? So you gain more confidence as you um, do the process, but as you do the process, your business grows and you have more money. So the skill set and the work feeds off of like the capital, and they both like synergistically coexist, right?
Yeah. Another element like that I would add to that is that the decision making process is the same, and it's kind of like what Brad said. Like your baseline moves, right? The first POs we submitted, $1,000, $500, 2,000. Like that was scary as hell because that was a ton of money relative to the amount of experience, right? And now the experience has caught up to it where now 6-figure POs are, you know, I mean, obviously it's still a lot of money, but like you're more comfortable in the decision making with that amount of money because you have that knowledge and stuff. But as far as the formula and approaching brands, it's exactly the same. It's just that your baseline moves. So, like, the reason that we are successful in it and the reason that you will be successful in it is because you're going to be using sound logic every time you're making a purchase decision, as opposed to just doing it for no reason. 'Cause I'll tell you right now, if I gave a complete beginner unlimited capital and they had no idea what they were doing, their business would fail. So that's what it comes down to.
Yep. And do you guys have any strategies where there's issues on Amazon, too many sellers, price erosion, lots of value to provide the brand, but the owner won't budge or take any action?
Kind of touched on this earlier a little bit. I mean, what would you say? I feel like it's another element of that like ignorance thing, and you got to gauge what that ignorance is. If it's, they're going to be ignorant forever, or if they're going to be willing to listen to you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this many times before. Like it's all the signs are there, and you're like salivating at the opportunity because like you can provide a ton of value to them and they clearly are misdirected, but they just won't budge, right? And so I think that is all about uncovering like the motivations, right? So like try not to approach it from an Amazon perspective. Try to approach it from like understanding what's important to them and their business, because then maybe they start talking about the brick and mortars, or maybe they start talking about the history of their company and like the family run operation, like, and then you can start to feed into those things and focus on those things and tie them in with how Amazon actually does have an impact on those things, right? Because, knockoffs running ads on their pages, or like misrepresented branding, or issues with how their marketing is, like all those things affect, or issues with their pricing, all those things affect those other things that are important to them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, these are good questions you guys have. People can really benefit from these questions, so keep it coming. We're closing in about 6:45.
Yeah. We
Probably
got
gonna,
3% on my phone right now, so we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, or I'm gonna go. It's dark here.
yeah,
But
yeah. We'll dive into some sourcing next week, guys. We also got a sourcing YouTube video coming out from start to finish, how to source and find profitable brands to work with, our exact processes and how we do that. So that'll be up in about a week. Just, stay tuned for that.
yeah.
So.
And if there's questions that we didn't get to here, you think of something after, shoot us a DM on Instagram. We'd be happy to answer whatever you guys have. So,
Yeah. Or
and
feel free to comment on any of the YouTube videos. We'll
exactly.
answer all of those.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, if there's no more last minute questions, I think it was a good live. You guys asked some really solid questions. I'm seeing some guys in here that are really tapping into the brand direct game, which I'm loving. That is the long-term process. And to Joseph, Brandon just mentioned that the best way to contact us is through Instagram DM, right? At Operation AMZ on Instagram. Shoot us a DM, and we will be happy to chat with you.
Yep. Absolutely. I look like I'm in France right now. Yeah.
Yeah, is
Eiffel
it
Tower.
France or Paris?
Yeah. The Eiffel Tower, or it's like a restaurant or something.
Do the like squish it.
Yeah. I can't. I'm like too close or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll get one. We'll get a quick view of this, and then we can figure out how to turn the camera. Or can I turn the camera on? I don't know if I can. Nope, I don't think I can. All right. Well, there you go.
All right, guys. It was a pleasure as always. Thanks for tapping into the live. We'll be live next week again. Most likely same day, same time. Switching up the times on you. Probably Tuesday, 6:00 Eastern. Looking forward to chatting with you again, doing some sourcing and answering some questions.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.